December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I happened to be in Berlin, where Hitler started his war on the first of those 2,319 days, September 1st, 39.
Well, it is going to be very big, and it is the only museum, not only in the United States, but in the whole world, that is going to cover all of the D-Days. In Normandy, obviously, but also North Africa and Sicily and Italy and all the ones in the Pacific, because in every invasion of World War II, the men who carried out the invasion rowed to the beach in boats built in New Orleans.
Hey, Harold.
Hey, morning.
Welcome to the National World War II Museum.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you today. Absolutely. Hey, George.
Hi, Tom.
Great to see you again.
Oh, it's nice
Welcome
to
to
see
your
you.
museum. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Nice to see you, Tom.
Absolutely.
Give me a big hug.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Great to see you, boss.
Thank you for all you did for
Yes,
us.
sir. Absolutely.
So they're from Brevard, North Carolina, which is where I went to college.
Come on in, folks. I'm Harold. I was a merchant marine during the Second World War.
Oh, you and James Garner.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Tony Kaiser. I'm the Assistant Director for Collections Management. What does that mean? I take care of all the artifacts. We probably have over 250,000 artifacts total in our collection when you consider individual photographs and letters in our archive holdings. But you know, like a lot of museums, you see about 1% of that on display. To have people from my hometown, adopted hometown, sort of show up, it's always really nice to sort of show off.
That C-47 is an actual D-Day veteran.
I'm wondering how they ever got that up there. Gee.
We think of our veterans sometimes as our living artifacts.
Wellington, W-E-L-L-I-N-G-T-O-N.
And which service were you in?
I was in the merchant marine during the Second World War.
Wonderful.
They are the people who still come often every day to sit here and talk to visitors and tell their World War II stories, or visit us occasionally just to share with us their experiences and see what we've been able to produce about their history.
That's the channel. That's the English Channel coming into the shores.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Some of it is triggering, and maybe in a bad way, and also sometimes in a good way for the experiences that they had in the military. Sometimes that's great experiences.
Was it Texas? I don't know whether it was the Nevada or the Iowa. There was two battle wagons there, and we were right over by the side of them. They were pounding the beach.
Look at all those planes in the sky.
And then other times it can be hard. It can be about loss and about the sorrow or the tragedy that you experienced along the way too.
I looked over, and then one of our big bombers, the wing was gone. And we were yelling, bail, bail, bail out, and they did.
What we hope to do is to bring them to a moment where they can understand how much we appreciate that sacrifice that they made.
When we landed and we unloaded, we were on the top deck, and a German fighter plane was coming down to strafe us. Before we knew it, there was a P-47 right on his tail, and he got him.
Here we have an array of American armaments, an M1 Garand with a rifle grenade, an M1 carbine, a Browning automatic rifle. Yeah.
There's a lot of LCIs. That one right there's an LCI. When I got my ship, was down in New Orleans. And I remember when I got off the ship to go to the PX site, one of my buddies was coming down the street. I didn't know who he was. When I saw him, it was a young man that I went to grade school with. The water was so rough, Tom. They were trying to put a one of the small boats up, and they couldn't do it because the water was so rough. Well, I remember when we shipped out, and I remember when we left New York and went past the Statue of Liberty. A bunch of us guys were saying, I wonder if we're going to come back.
Today, just as in these scenes, the armies of the United Nations have made their first landings on the soil of Western Europe. Another of the great decisive battles of world history has been joined. This is the day for which free people long have waited. This is D-Day.
You remember, Harold, when they used to have the transport ships with all the guys.
Yeah.
And then they just had those small boats and the guys were climbing down
Right,
the ropes,
I-
remember? And then
yeah.
they just circled and just went to a side and waited till they were loaded. Yeah. And a lot of my buddies are gone. There's very few of us left. But we had we really loved each other during the war.
Just the goal of our institution and in partnering with people like the Gary Sinise Foundation is to try to make it as accessible as we possibly can for as many veterans who are physically able to travel to do so.
This is a place where everybody should come. The knife you turn around and use it for brass knuckles. It'd take at least 2 days to see, everything, and not have to hurry. And
I'd like to have a picture with you, my man.
oh, sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And some people that study everything, I got a friend of mine it'd take him a week because he has to stop and read everything he sees.
Many islands lack ports or even basic infrastructure.
The part that interests me most was the Merchant Marine display, because it's one of the few places that honors the Merchant Marine. Hey, Emmett, can you stick that model in your pocket?
I would love to take
get
that
it
home.
out.
I would
Get
love
it
to
out
take
the
that
door.
home. That is awesome.
That's what.
Now that's the one, they have deck guns on that one. That's after. That's later model, I guess.
That's what I'd like. Oh,
Yeah, I know. We have to get you one.
Yeah, it brings back memories of some of the stuff that you've tried to forget.
That's a German sub, a German torpedo. That was an Allied supply ship. Those are British, Dutch, Norwegians, Americans.
The stuff that you would never want to go through again, but still you'd do it if you had to.
Can you explain to me what this is?
That is a Liberty ship, and that's a ship that won the war. Well, it was the Germans, the submarines were chasing you, and we were trying to keep away from a fight instead of getting into a fight. They were slow, but they could build them fast. They could build them faster than the Germans could sink them. The job was great. It's just what you had to go through to do it. But as far as if you wasn't under attack or something, it was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. But it was one of the most dangerous jobs I ever had in my life.
This is where the 20 millimeters were that you were helping with, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yep.
I had some good memories, the traveling we did and the places we saw and all that. It was something that you just couldn't get any other way. I mean, it was great. No, I was down clear down the bottom there. But that's what I sail on most of the time. I was on four different ones.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
They badmouthed it a lot, but it was a good ship.
One of my favorite artifacts is we have a Hitler pin cushion. And you put the pins, Hitler's kind of bent over, and you put the pins right where you think he would. It's actually on display in our Arsenal of Democracy exhibition in the Historic House. And I don't know why, but it just shows the sense of humor that my great-grandmother would have had when she would have been like, oh, I think I'll buy that. They were just kind of, propaganda in some ways pieces produced by entrepreneurs here in the U.S., but a lot of people wanted ways to sort of show their patriotism. And there's lots of, sweetheart jewelry and other trinkets and tokens like that, in addition to war bonds and stuff that people could do to show their patriotism. And what better way than to put your sewing pins in Hitler's butt?
We are on the beach today, on D-Day. We've just come in. We caught a ride in a small boat which came in from our LST loaded with 1,000 pounds of TNT.
One of my other favorite artifacts, I think, just because it speaks to the nature of the kinds of things that people collected, is We have a weather map, which seems kind of inane, like why would you take a weather map? But it's a German weather map from June 6th. It was the Germans' prediction of the weather on June 6th, having no idea what they were about to face.
These boys are apparently having a pretty tough time in here on the beaches. It's not very pleasant. It's exposed, and it must have been a rugged fight.
A soldier was in a building after the invasion of Normandy, saw it on a desk and decided to keep it, and that he kept it for 70 plus years before giving it to us. And it's one of those things, it's a big piece of paper with scientific drawings on it of weather, and you just wouldn't think that somebody would want it or would want to save it. But it's really important to us now as a historic record of what the Germans were predicting for the day.
American flying fortresses have cut 2 great aerial highways through the heart of Hitler's Europe. Huge fleets of heavy bombers now fly from Britain and Italy to land on newly established American bases in the Soviet Union.
I hope that people leave here with a sense of the history of World War II and how it is still impacting how we live our lives today, and the importance of the role of the U.S. military and the U.S. Civilians who also served in their own ways on the home front.
What a great opportunity to come down here and see what this museum offers to the American people.
What a great job they're doing here, and I feel proud of these guys that are keeping the history up and trying to pass it on to the newer generations.
So many people did contribute. It wasn't just about sending your sons, but also your daughters off to war, but about how, women entered the workforce to take jobs so that their husbands could, join the army. Everybody was rationing, so you'll see lots of those posters like, do with a little so that they have enough. Things as like coffee and tires that are kind of very basic to our existence, and everybody really felt like they were a part of something that was greater than themselves. And I think that was a key part of why World War II sticks in the memories of so many people so poignantly, is that they felt like they were able to make a contribution, even if it was just rationing sugar.
That'd be down here. The boiler room would be back here under, because these are the holes up here.
It is priceless. And what it makes it so priceless is we want to leave it for our young generation to know what the country went through to preserve our freedom and our liberty.
Take your kids to museums. The key thing that we know about people who support museums is that they were invited or had times or had a good time in a museum as a kid. So it makes you want to go. It makes you to want to take your own kids. And so we just encourage people to expose their children to institutions, historic sites around them, so that as they travel, as they grow up, they'll be like, oh, look, there's a museum. Let's go do that.
Calais.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Well, they were making a fictitious army around Patton.
Because this is a great nation, and the millions have sacrificed for the freedom we enjoy today.
I hope that they take away how much we really appreciate them.
It's the experiences that we all had. No matter where you were, we were all brothers and sisters. It shouldn't ever be left behind. It shouldn't be forgot.
I deem this reply a full acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration, which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan.
One more.
We're not going to make that.